Hi, my name is Holly Aller. I work in housing and residential education here at Cal State San Bernardino. Welcome to our webinar today. We're really excited to interact with you and to share a little bit more about what housing and residential education here has to offer. So I have a few folks who have joined us from our team. We're going to be participating today. You have an opportunity to ask us some questions in here, and we'll take a couple brief pauses to answer those as we go. And hopefully our presentation will help answer some of those questions for you. So I'm going to let my folks help introduce themselves, starting with Shannon.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shannon DeCormier. I work also for Housing and Residential Education. I'm currently the area coordinator for Coyote Village, which is one of our first-year residence halls that opened up about a year and a half to 2 years ago. I was also a CSUSB student during undergraduate, and I lived on campus all 4 years. So I'm a huge proponent of living on campus, and I'm excited to have you all at our webinar.
We'll have Ariana next.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ariana Garcia. I am a third year here at Cal State San Bernardino. I'm currently an FBA, which is a front desk assistant for housing and residential education. My major is English, and I've been living on campus for 2 years now, and it's really changed my life. And yeah.
Thank you. And Kathy.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Weber. I'm the Outreach and Guest Services Coordinator here at Cal State San Bernardino, and I, too, am an alumni of Cal State.
Thanks so much, Kathy. So we're going to kind of bounce back and forth between folks on our team as we go based on areas where people have different expertise or things to share with you. So we're excited to get started. We'd like to first start here with a little bit of a poll. So hopefully you can see our poll everywhere information, but we'd like to know from our students who joined us, what are you excited about for your college experience? You can go to pollev.com /Holly ALLAR 528 and respond there. The poll is open, or you can text Holly Aller 528 to 22333 to join and then send a message. So I'm going to give a couple minutes to see some of your feedback around what are things that you're excited about for your college experience. We'll give just a couple more minutes for some responses here. All right, maybe just a few more seconds. Some responses are coming in. So I'll read a couple of these out to you. So one is meeting new people, making new friends. I want to be able to continue my education and make new friends. I'm excited about meeting new people and dorming on campus, hopefully dorming and just getting to know people, getting to meet new people and meet new professors, meeting new people, living on campus, making friends, getting my degree. That's the end goal, right? Becoming a college graduate, being independent. We'll give maybe just a few more seconds, a couple more coming in. Big letters, living on my own and meeting people, having more independence, learning what it's like to be on my own. So I see a lot of themes here. Again, hopefully it looks like folks that are excited to live on campus. Someone just sent in living on campus, independence, making friends, graduating, getting your degree. So those are all things that you can experience when you're living on campus and when you're getting to maybe in a residential environment. So one person shared utilizing resources, learning in a new place, widening a range of knowledge and possibilities that await for them. So these are all things that are exciting, and I hope that you're all very excited about and resonate with what on-campus experience looks like. I want to maybe bounce to Ariana. Do you want to share a little bit about kind of what your experience was like meeting new people and kind of getting to know different folks across campus when you moved on campus?
Yeah, sure. So for me, when I decided to live on campus, I actually found it really interesting that, you know, I would see so many people in my classes that I was like, hey, you live in my same building, or, hey, I've seen you like in the study room before, that kind of thing. And so it's really awesome when you notice the different people within your classes that also live on campus, or even encourage like someone who has been debating on living on campus or not. It's been really awesome to be able to make friends with people within the building, because you can study with them, you can become lifelong friends with them. You're with your roommates, especially. I love all of my roommates that I've had in the past, and I still talk to them all the time. So it's been really awesome. So a lot of the answers that you students have submitted are a lot of what I felt too when I decided that I was going to live on campus, and it exceeded all my expectations. So just know that it's an amazing opportunity, and just coming to Cal State San Bernardino has really changed who I am as a person, and I've really grown as well from when I started to now. So
thank you so much for sharing. Again, we'll have Ariana share a little more as we go. But really, one thing I want to note too is this idea of having this experience that's impactful, living with different people, learning, growing as a person, and also getting towards graduation. There's national studies and information from CSUSB that really show that, an experience living on campus has a positive impact on GPA, students' retention, and on their overall experience and feeling of being a part of a campus. So I think those are some pieces that you all are looking for that resonate. I want to share a couple things that students have shared about their experiences with you. So one of the things I'd like to share is this next slide. So what students have said about living here and why they choose to live on campus. There's a lot of folks that have selected it initially because it's close to campus, right? And the next one after that is no commute. So again, living near your classes, if you're walking to your class from your residence hall, that commute is going to be pretty much the same every day unless you walk significantly slower or faster that day, right? Versus navigating traffic or accidents. That convenience, you're close to the library, you're close to resources, you're part of a club or an organization, you get to be right near where those meetings and events are, where food service is. We do a lot of housing events, which we'll get to later. So you have this convenience of being local to all of these things happening. And lastly, that showed learning independence, something really critical to students. Our families are important. The people who supported us are important in our lives, but there's also this great opportunity to learn independence, but still have support if you're living on campus. If you're living on campus and you have off campus, you have a challenge with the roommate, there isn't anyone who can really step in or help or mediate besides yourself, really. Living on campus, we have staff and other folks who can support and either step you through that or help provide a roommate agreement. There's different things that we can do and provide some support while people are also living independently. So those are things that students have said about what they like about living on campus. We also pulled a few quotes as well from students about what they liked most. One shared, "The friendships I've made as they've helped me with my studies," how close it is to everything, classes and work, feeling like a part of the school. It can be challenging to feel like you're really a part of the campus if you're just driving in for a few hours a day or a few hours a week. And then the RAs are extremely nice and helpful and really seem to care about your well-being. I really regret not taking advantage of all the amenities offered. So that's, I think, a piece that's both exciting, but also challenges a lot of great opportunities on our campus and in housing. So I think when you live on campus, you get to see up close what those opportunities are and pick those things out. And it doesn't take the same amount of time maybe to learn what's happening because it's right there. You're living in it every day. So those are a few things that students have shared about what they like about living on campus. I'm going to shift again back over to Ariana. I would love her to answer these two questions for me. Why did you choose to live on campus? And then what has been impactful about your experience, or maybe expand on an experience that was impactful?
Yeah, so one of the main reasons why I decided to live on campus was, kind of like you said, Holly, first of all, the commute. I actually live in Moreno Valley, which is just about like 45 minutes away from Cal State. But for me, it was just really exhausting. I found it my first year I did not live on campus, and I found it really exhausting to, have to drive back and forth, even for the 45 minutes, because you have to take into account traffic or, just anything that happens in everyday life. And so it was really exhausting because I also, worked a full-time job, and, I also wanted to still be social somehow, but I didn't find myself feeling a part of Cal State San Bernardino like I wanted to be, because I was only there for class, and it just felt like a routine. It just didn't seem, fun. And so when I had a few friends in my classes that did live on campus, and they shared their experiences with me, and they said, you should really give it a try. And so I was like, why not? And so my second year, I did decide to live on campus, and I think it was one of the best choices I ever made, because not only did I cut, my gas money in half because I wasn't having to constantly drive back and forth, but I just felt so much closer to the campus, not only being able to utilize, the different amenities on campus that we'll get into later, not only in housing, but on campus at Cal State San Bernardino. But also just being able to feel like, my first year when I did not live on campus, I didn't really attend office hours for professors, and I didn't really speak to my classmates after class. But now that I live on campus, I'm inviting my classmates to come study in my dorm, or, I'm making more time to speak to my professors for office hours. And it's just a lot. I'm the type of person where I let things, stress me out really easily. And so my first year, I was super stressed out having to drive back and forth, and I just felt so overwhelmed. But I just feel like a different person, like a fresh person, I guess you can say, now that I've lived on campus for so long now. I've met so many people. Something that's been really impactful for me has honestly been raising my grades. If I take a look at my grades from when I was a first year, they weren't the best, and I'll be honest with you. And I think that that's just because, again, I was stressed out. I had work full time as well. I had to drive back and forth all the time. I was barely getting enough sleep because I also still wanted to hang out with my friends. And I had a really low GPA that quarter. I want to say it was about like a 2.5 or so. And it's okay, but it's not what I wanted. It's not what I knew that I represented. And once I decided to live on campus, I immediately, within the first quarter, saw improvement in my GPA. I bounced to a 3.5, and I think that that's really awesome. And I think it's just because I was able to really just sit down and focus on the work that needed to be done. And like I said, I went to my professors, and I got to be in more study groups with my classmates. And I just felt overall more focused, being able to just be in one place at one time instead of just, driving back and forth on the freeway and traffic. The 2 hours that I spent, stuck in traffic, I could have spent towards studying. And, while everyone else after class was dreading, walking to the parking lot and getting into their car and going home, I was just taking a quick walk to my dorm and taking a little nap, if anything, So I think there's been so many different impactful things that have happened to me since deciding to live on campus. But one of the most impactful, of course, was raising my grades. And, if you're the type of student where you really need to be focused and, you really rely on the help of others as well, I really think that you'll enjoy living on campus once you see the amount of resources that are here for you as a resident.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you, being really candid with the group. I think that's important.
Thank you.
So we're going to shift a little bit to some other reasons why maybe you should live on campus. So unique aspects you won't get off campus. I'm going to hand over to Shannon for us.
Hi, everyone. So kind of like Holly and Ariana said, there are a plethora of reasons why you should live on campus. Some of the ones that maybe people don't think about, at first hand, are some of the ones we listed right here. So student events, our staff of student leaders and professional staff put on well over 200 or 300 events during the academic year to help you engage with people that live in your hall, people engage with you that live in your building, they center around a bunch of different topics. Some of those are your academics, some of those are your social life, diversity, wellness, sporting events, etc. It's a really cool way to get connected to people outside of the classroom that you are living next to and living with. We also have faculty and residents, and so we know that it's really important that students engage with their faculty members or their professors outside of a normal classroom setting. So we have 9 faculty members that live on campus in our residential halls and our apartments. And they're from all different colleges, all different majors, all different academic backgrounds. And they're really there to serve as additional support for you as a student and a connection point for you to have some sort of faculty interaction outside of the classroom. They also put on events like our students do. And a lot of those events are scheduled around how do you connect to internships or externships or off-campus jobs or different career opportunities once you do graduate from CSUSB. So it's a really cool opportunity for you to connect with some of your professors. We also have academic mentors, which are peer student leaders that live in the halls. They're there to support your academic success as well. So part of what their job is to engage with you all in choosing or changing your major, if that's something you're interested in doing. They put on multiple study sessions throughout the quarters, right up coming between midterms and the finals week. And they also meet with at-risk students. So if you're struggling with a class or you're struggling with an assignment, they can connect you to different sorts of resources on campus to make sure that you're successful academically, because like we all mentioned, that's your primary reason to be here is to be a student. We have resident assistants on campus as well, or most people call them RAs. They're also peer student leaders that are sophomores or above that are responsible for the well-being and the safety of the residence halls. So when they engage with students regularly, they're connecting them to different campus resources, both on or off campus. They also put on small or large scale events. So you may go to an event one day where it's just the people in your hallway. And then next week you go to an event where it's everyone in your building. And the following week you go to another event where it's everyone that lives on campus as a whole. So they put on a lot of really, really interesting social and academic events to get you engaged on campus. Their safety aspect is they do nightly rounds. And what we call a round is essentially they walk through the building to make sure that everyone's following policies, but also that all of our spaces are safe, secure, well kept up for our students to feel that they have a welcoming and safe place on campus. Next, we have RHA, or our Residence Halls Association, or our Village Council. These are resident-led student organizations designed to put on events or to advocate for the needs of residents. So if one of our residents wants to see a change in their building or a change in their community because they don't like something, or they see that there's a need for folks to get involved in different ways, these are the folks that advocate to the professional staff and to the university as a whole to make some of those changes. The really cool thing about this is anyone can run for a position and they're all student voted. So the residents that live on campus vote for members to be in this organization. I kind of try to like align it with what I call ASB in high school, if any of you are involved with that. So it's like a student-led government for housing specifically. We also have what we call living learning communities, or LLCs. These are themed communities centered around folks' identities, maybe your common interest, maybe an academic background or an academic pursuit that you're on, to help students live with, live amongst, and connect with like-minded individuals and connect them to faculty and staff and alumni that have those same interests or in that same background. We'll talk a little bit more about LLCs as we go on, but it's a really cool opportunity for you to get engaged and live in a space on campus with folks that have similar interests or backgrounds as you do. The biggest piece, we have 24-hour security. So we have professional staff like myself that are on call 24/7. So if a resident has a concern about their roommate, or they feel really, really homesick, or a huge academic issue, we are there 24/7 to assist students all hours of the day. Knowing that college comes with a lot of stressors, we also have on-call 24/7 university police assistance. There is a main campus university police department, and there's also a satellite station in housing directly. So the response time, if you need to call university police for anything, is extremely, extremely quick living in housing at CSUSB. The other things that come with the priority of living on campus are what we call priority by class registration. So coming up this next academic year, when you register for classes, you register by your class. So seniors, juniors, sophomores, and first years. If you live on class, you get priority by your class registration. What that means is if you live on campus, you will get a register for your courses for each semester before any other first years that live off campus do. That's really, really important if you look, once you get into the university and you start registering for courses, because some of your classes that you need to graduate on time fill up pretty quickly. And so if you're able to register before anyone else, you're able to, like going back to what Holly said, graduate faster, graduate at a quicker rate, and get a better GPA. We said this multiple times, but no commute is a huge thing. When I was a student, I lived pretty far away from campus, about an hour. Not having to drive in traffic, especially down the Cone Pass, every single day was really, really helpful. If you are a student that really wants to get involved, which we encourage you to do so in clubs or organizations or connecting to faculty members, having no commute and not waiting in traffic is a huge benefit. Along with no commute comes resident parking. So parking at CSUSB can be pretty hectic sometimes, but if you live on campus, there are reserved parking spaces specifically for residents that are extremely close to the building that you live in. Those are available only to our residents that live on campus. There's no additional charge for those. It's just an additional placard, but it is a really great opportunity for you not to have to worry about finding a parking space where you're maybe running late for an exam or running late for work or running late for a club meeting. We'll go into some of the details of our rooms later, but all of our rooms do come fully furnished as well. And so when you live off campus, a lot of folks don't think about, you have to buy a couch, you have to buy all the furniture. Here at CSUSB, when you live on campus, it's all provided for you. In addition to that, there are no monthly bills. The cost is completely inclusive of all the events, programs, activities, all the furniture, as well as all our gas, sewage, Wi-Fi, electricity, power. That is all included in the bill. It doesn't fluctuate based on how much water you use or how much electricity you use. It is one solid price that is inclusive for all your bills.
All right, thank you, Shannon. We are going to jump into a brief break for some questions here. We've got a whole bunch of them. We'll answer a number of them now. And then we also have another point where we'll answer some more questions as we go. So if you have continued questions, please feel free to send those in to us. First one, are freshmen required to live on campus if they live outside of a certain area? The answer is no. No one is required to live on campus. It's completely voluntary for folks to live on campus. How am I able to receive my FAFSA money to pay for dorms? So I think the big thing that we'd really say is, completing the FAFSA is critical. And working with, financial aid will provide you with, a package letter, if you haven't received already, that you should be receiving, to see what your financial aid package looks like and to talk that through. So again, definitely do your FAFSA. If you don't do the FAFSA, you can't receive aid, not just for housing, just in general. So it's really important to do that. And then really, financial aid, we bill through student financial services, and the financial aid covers it through that. So if you have specific questions about your individual circumstances, we'd encourage you to reach out to us. We have some information, contact information at the end of the presentation, as well as on our website. But really, again, completing your FAFSA, getting that aid package, from the university, that aid would get applied to the bill that you have from the university, which would include your housing. But again, everyone's situation is a little different in terms of what aid you receive. Certainly getting a grant may look different than a loan that you would need to accept. So there's a lot of pieces to make sure that you feel confident in understanding, the different aid that you get. That's really critical. So I really encourage you, again, do your FAFSA, see what aid you get, talk to financial aid about what all that aid means for you, to talk about what's reasonable in terms of using your aid on campus. So this question, that's a great question. Do you guys think we would be back by fall? Because I'm an upcoming freshman and not sure if I should pay for housing if we're not sure about going back in the fall. That's a really great question. Housing, right now we are open. We put multiple safety measures in place. We have people appropriately social distancing. We encouraged folks for now to go home if they were able to go home. We are planning to be open on fall. Our housing on campus doesn't close. We have students who this is their full-time home, and we certainly intend to do that. I think obviously we're hoping, like many others, that we will be in a point with the pandemic hopefully stabilizing in a way that we can return to some semblance of normalcy. But we also acknowledge we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. So the piece that I would say is that we will have housing for folks, but we also acknowledge that we have a cancellation policy, that if someone applies for housing and has a room selected and is all ready to go, we do have a process to go through for canceling, and we've been very willing to work with folks, especially given the pandemic situation, around if housing is not end up being the right choice for them, then it may end up not being the right choice for them, and we want to work with folks around that. So we have specific cancellation policies, and again, if you have individual questions, because everyone's individual scenario might be a little different related to that, we're happy to chat through. But again, housing, we are folks housing year-round, 24/7. We don't close over breaks, so we will definitely have housing available. Let's see here. Do you guys offer any sort of system that can provide a discount to living on campus, work programs, student pep teams. We do, and we actually have a great discount program for folks who apply early. I am going to take a brief pause on that so that we can get back to it towards the end of our presentation, but we have an awesome program depending upon how early you apply, where you can get essentially up to a month of rent free. We do also, we have a number of student positions. We do employ students. I know work study across campus is also something that is important, and we do hire work study students as well. Let's see here. Can you choose your roommates? Yes, you can. If you have someone in mind that you'd like to be your roommate, you can do that. We certainly work with folks. We also know people may not have a person in mind. And if you don't, we certainly can help place you. When you fill out your application, you also submit some information around your living style preferences. So things like, how neat do you like your room? When do you tend to go to sleep? What kind of noise do you appreciate when you're studying? Do you want it silent? Do you want it a little louder? And if you don't have a roommate in mind, we would place you with someone else based on some of those living situation preferences that you submit. So you can choose someone, but you don't have to. Let's see here. Is there a place where I can find the prices of all housing options? Yes, the housing website. If you go to the main DHRA website, csusb.edu/housing, we'll show you that at the end as well. There's one of the tabs says Getting Started, and that has all of our rates information. It has application information, tours, and more information on roommates, etc. How can I become an RA maybe this next year? Well, we have selected our RAs for next year already, and those folks are actually right now started some online training for us. So they're very excited to be meeting new students and greeting and creating community on campus. Our RA training process, our RA selection process usually begins late fall. We open the application in December for the next year. Let's see here. Is there a cutoff for when someone can move in? It kind of depends what you mean by that question. So someone can apply at any point during the year if we have vacancies. We fill housing on a first come, first served basis. So obviously for full, we would have a wait list, but if we have openings, you can apply at any point in time. If someone does choose to, fill out a housing application and gets a room assignment, we do have a point where we check to make sure and see if folks actually have shown up to campus, and then touch base with people if they haven't checked in for their room to determine if they're still planning to live on campus. So it's part of how we manage that. There's a question, let's see. As a transfer student, do I have to buy a meal plan? Students who are in apartment areas are not required to have meal plans. So at this point, our first-year freshmen are required to have meal plans. The reason for that is that our traditional style freshman buildings have really limited kitchen spaces. So they have some space if someone wants to do a little bit of cooking, but they're not intended for everyday cooking use to create one's own meals. So it's really critical that folks have a meal plan in that first year. Let's see. There's a couple really specific questions in here from some folks around things like a very specific financial aid question, a specific question around accommodation related to medical. We do medical accommodations for folks. We work with our Office for Students with Disabilities. But I would just say we would love to maybe connect with you after the webinar to talk a little more specifically about your individual circumstances. So let's see, we're going to take a brief pause to kind of move forward. We have a number of other questions, but we'll definitely get back to them. We want to make sure that we're covering our other content. And a few of these questions look like things that we'll answer as we move forward with content as well. So I'm going to hand off to Kathy to talk a little bit about our communities.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to talk about our communities. We have 4 villages here at Cal State San Bernardino, Coyote Village and Serrano Village. These 2 are for first-year freshmen that Holly just mentioned. These are the traditional residence halls that students for their first year would live in. I'll tell you a little bit about both of them. Coyote Village, this consists of 2 buildings, Running Springs and Cajon. This village opened in 2018, so it is our newest addition. And students can have a single occupancy or a double. So you can either have a room to yourself or you could share it with someone else. All of our, that I'll be talking about, all villages, just to me say, they're all fully furnished. So for instance, in Coyote Village, you have an extra long twin bed, a desk and a chair, a wardrobe cabinet with drawers, and a dresser. You don't have to, like Shannon, I think mentioned, you don't have to drag everything from your house. Everything is there waiting for you. So it's all just built in for you. The village has a community activity center, which is a game room, a community kitchen, and a living room. There are some study rooms on each of the wings, and there's a laundry facility, and of course there's Wi-Fi. Serrano Village, which is another traditional residence hall, it consists of 8 buildings and is the oldest of all of our buildings. However, it has a wonderful character, and it offers students a strong sense of community. So a lot of students just love living there. It's just very open and kind of historic. The room furnishings in there, again, fully furnished. You can have a single or double room. It has a extra long twin bed, a common kitchen, study room, lounge areas, laundry rooms. It's very accessible to one of our swimming pools, and there's Wi-Fi. Now, for continuing and transfer students, they would be that sophomore and above. They would be living in an apartment-style housing. So we have Arrowhead Village. That's here on our campus. Again, fully furnished. It includes your refrigerator, an oven range, and a garbage disposal. There's centrally located laundry rooms. There's study rooms and lounges, and again, pool access and Wi-Fi. Now, if you were to choose Arrowhead Village as the place that you'd like to live, you do have some choices. There's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or a studio, which is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. We also have University Village, which is located across the street from campus, but it still does belong to Cal State. These also, again, need I say, fully furnished, has a full kitchen, living room, bedrooms, and bathrooms. Each apartment has a refrigerator, oven range, microwave, dishwasher, and garbage disposal. These apartments are a little different because they have full-size beds. They don't have the twin beds, so some students just love that. There's laundry units on each floor. There's a fitness center, a computer and game room. There's a beautiful swimming pool, and there is gated and covered parking for the residents. So a lot of great things there at University Village. Again, if you have selections for rooms, there's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So there are different things depending on what your lifestyle is and kind of what you're looking for to choose from. Let me tell you a little bit about our community amenities, which there are so many, so these are just kind of a handful. We'll start again with Coyote Village. There, I mentioned there's a game room, so it's adjacent to the laundry facility and the kitchen. And I think there's foosball in there, so it's just kind of a hangout area to just kind of with your friends. You can kind of just be there. Serrano Village, they have Village Square. It's a room that it's adjacent to the swimming pool. Again, kind of a great social area. There's a pool table, there's a TV, and there's some games that students can play. University Village has, again, the computer and game room and a fitness room, which I did mention. Laundry facilities, very important when you're away at college. These are all in all the villages. And the great thing about this is you don't have to save your quarters any longer. There is an app that students download called PayRange, and it can be downloaded to your mobile app or mobile device. And it works really great. It's very convenient for students, and the money is deducted from your bank account. So it's just something that really it has a lot of convenience, I guess, for students. So there's also instructions in the laundry facilities if you have any questions about that. The computer lab that I mentioned a couple minutes ago in University Village, it's available to housing residents, and there's several computers, and it's open during the week until 10 p.m. So students can come on a first-come, first-served basis to use one of those. Vending and ice machines are located in each of the villages. And so again, it's a convenience thing if you are just wanting to hang out with a friend, or if you're doing something social with several people back in the future when we're back to that. pools with lounge areas. There's 2 swimming pools, one in Toronto Village and one again at University Village. So this is for all student residents to use. It's a great thing. Of course, we have all this wonderful warm weather in Southern California, so it's a very popular spot, again, socially, or if you just want to hang out by the pool just by yourself. There's a community garden in Serrano Village, and last year there was a $7,500 grant that was received, and the idea was to kind of rebuild this garden, which they started in fall of 2019. And this is a project that student residents can be involved in. The vegetables that will be grown will be donated to the Obashaw Food Pantry here on campus, and students are able to access that benefit if they need it. Also, just a note, housing is planning to have a greenhouse community for first-year students that will reside in Coyote Village, Burning Springs, and will also be shared with a new LLC called Be Well Community. So these 2 LLCs, which you'll hear more about, they will have some crossover in programs and some collaborations, and this community garden could be one of those projects. Barbecues and lounge areas, again, we want students to enjoy themselves here on campus, so there are some barbecuing areas, and of course plenty of lounge areas, again, kind of by the pools to take advantage of, and another way to kind of just enjoy your downtime. And then really important, private mailboxes and mailroom. So students can have all of their mail delivered right here at Cal State. You don't have to have them go to your parents' house or someone else's house. It can go right here, and that includes packages as well. So you also, as a student, could have the opportunity to have your individual mailbox. So it doesn't have to just go to the mailroom. You could have your own where they would put your mail into the mailbox. However, you would have to still go to the mailroom to pick up packages. And we accept packages from all carriers. So it's a really great convenience for students. Typically, we're open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And again, you just have to have your student ID to pick up your mail or your packages. So it's a great thing for students to have at their fingertips.
Great, thank you, Kathy.
Sure.
I'm going to hand over to Ariana to share a little bit of, Kathy just shared a lot of community amenities. What do you think, Ariana, it would be helpful for prospective students to know about the community amenities? And also knowing that you work as a front desk assistant, if there's anything else you'd like to add about the front desks?
Yeah, so I think that Kathy did a great job of talking about all the different amenities that we have on campus, a lot more specifically about housing, but I do want to let you guys know that there are so many different amenities as well on the campus itself that you are able to use. For example, like the Wedge, that is something that's open 24/7 as well. So, and that's essentially it's a computer lab as well. So that's somewhere where I really enjoy studying at like 2 a.m. when I'm doing my homework and when I should have done it earlier. So that is really awesome to know. Based off of the amenities that we have within the housing area, I think, of course, the computer lab is something that's been really helpful for me. Although the printing is not free, I believe it's 15 cents, which is a small price. So they are really helpful, the computer labs, for if you just want some alone time, or maybe you're working on a group project with some other students. You guys can sit in there. There's a really long table in there as well. So if you're not on a computer, you can also sit in there as well. And kind of like Kathy said too, there are study rooms within each floor or each building that are very spacious. There's, room for everyone in there. And it's a great place to be if you're not really, especially if you're a first year and you live with someone else in the same room and you don't want to kind of bother them while they're doing something else. You can go ahead and step to a study room and do all of your homework there and, kind of get that equal amount of time to study for both of you. Other than that, I do really enjoy using the gym at UV as well. I know that we have a gym on campus as well that a lot of people go to, but the great thing about the gym in University Village is that no one really goes to it during specific times. And I think that's mainly because people want to use the school gym, and that's fine. But for me, since I noticed that it's not usually as packed in the University Village gym, I enjoy going there more just because it's not so overwhelming, kind of like how the big gym is on campus. I feel more to myself there in the university gym, so that's really nice. Both of the pools are absolutely amazing. I enjoy going in there. I know when I was a part of Coyote First Step, it was one of my favorite things to do was just like jump in the pool because it gets so hot over where we're at, just because I feel like the sun is just always beating down on us near that mountain. But other than that, I really enjoy the fact that we have a mailroom. I don't know if all campuses have that, but I think our mailroom is really, not only the staff, but just the way that the mailroom is set up is really, makes me feel like I don't live at a dorm. And so I think for some people that's really important, is that they don't feel like, even though they're living on campus, they don't want to feel like they're living on a campus. They want to feel like they're living in an actual home, I guess you can say. And so that's why I really enjoy the mailroom, because it makes me feel like I'm actually taking a walk to the post office to like pick up a package or something. And not only that, but, you know, being able to decorate my own space, you know, make it so that it doesn't feel like such a dorm. But hopefully I covered all of the different amenities that, you know, Kathy kind of shared. I do really enjoy the garden as well. I always walk past it. And I think that it's great that we're going to be donating the food to the den that we grow. That's really awesome. A lot of students use the den, which is another great amenity that is on our campus, is the den. So we also at the front desk have packs from the den that they have provided to us, where a student can come in to our front desk and sign a paper, and they can receive a pack of food. And I've noticed it usually lasts about like, I don't know, I would say a day or two. It has like some cup of noodles, some little snacks, something to drink. We also have hygiene packs, which a lot of our residents really enjoy having as well. Just if you're not able to get hygiene products, you know, like a toothbrush, deodorant, things of that nature, we also have at the front desk. And the front desk is a great way to, you know, get to know more residents on campus. You can always come and ask us questions. We're all very friendly people. You know, we have a lot of great experiences as well. And we also, we get asked all kind of questions, so you can always come, even if it's the most random question you have. We'll always be more than happy to answer it. And I think that I can say that for everyone who works in housing, is that we all are ready to help whenever. I think that, you know, if you guys have any more questions, please keep them going. You know, we are willing to answer all of them. And you know, hopefully if I didn't touch on any amenity that maybe you wanted to hear a little bit more of, please feel free to leave a question and I can answer it a little bit later on towards the end.
Great. Thanks so much, Ariana.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk a little bit now about our living learning communities that we have on campus. We have a number of them, some that have been well established, and then a couple that are new for this next year. So we have a couple that are built off of identity experiences, some off of interest, and some that are connected more to the students' academic endeavors directly. So one of our communities is Black Residential Scholars. We have a first-year community and a continuing community for students who identify as Black, and to build community amongst each other, to get connected within the greater community. That community has connections with a number of organizations on campus. We have the greenhouse and sustainability learning community that Kathy touched base on a little bit, which is really focused on what are sustainable practices. Some of those folks are involved in sustainability as a field of study, and some folks it's just a passion area. We have a residential honors scholars. So these are students who are part of the honors program on campus. You have to be part of the honors program to live in that community. But it's folks basically who want to live and engage and discuss and interact, related to honors endeavors within our residential communities. With Latinx residential scholars, we also have an upper division community for Latinx and for honors. And so Latinx students are folks who want to explore more about their Latinx identity. That we know is a rich variety of identities from different places. What does your identities mean to you? What do they mean on campus and in the world, and how you navigate being who you are? We've had a really strong community in Latinx, so really excited that this year we have a new continuing community to connect with and to help mentor our first-year community. We have an Upstarters community. It's focused on entrepreneurship specifically. So it could be someone from any major, but someone who's maybe interested in entrepreneurship or being a business person later in life. We have women in science and engineering. We know women tend to be underrepresented in science. We wanted to create a space to create some, mentorship opportunities and connection points with women who are moving into the science fields. And we have this coming year, Be Well Yote. So we're really excited about a wellness-focused LLC. We took direct feedback from the students who were excited in focusing on wellness in a variety of different ways over the course of the year. So we will be kicking that off this fall. Shannon, do you want to share anything maybe about the living learning communities or your experiences with them?
Yeah, so I think one thing I would really recommend is if you are living on campus, think about joining one of these communities. There's a really cool, we talk a lot about kind of what the benefits of living on campus are, but if you join an LLC or a living learning community, there's additional benefits that come with that as well at no additional cost. I know Holly will talk about those in a little bit, but it's really a cool way to connect with people that live on your floor. They're taking the same classes with you. The other really cool piece is all of the student leaders, so our resident assistants and our academic mentors that are placed on the LLC floors also identify with that background or take courses with you or have a similar interest. So there's already people that are in classes above you or specific grade levels above you that have some additional experience in all of these areas to help you kind of navigate your way through college life. The really cool thing about having some of our continuing communities, such as Black residential scholars or Latinx residential scholars, is a really cool way to build a mentorship with a person that has the identity or that background that has kind of navigated their way through some challenges on CSUSB's campus or in society. So it's a really cool opportunity for you to get involved in an additional way to get connected to different clubs, organizations, or community events around CSUSB.
Thank you, Shannon. I just wanted to share a couple examples of some of the unique opportunities programmatically that some of our learning communities have been able to do this past year. So the first one I want to share is our Black residential scholars took a group to the California African American Museum where they had a chance to explore different art related to identity. They spent a little bit of time in LA doing kind of some visiting and considering of identity. And the students who attended that trip had a really amazing experience. And they picked that, essentially. They got to work with their staff and their leaders in the community, and that's what they chose to do. Our Latinx residential scholars, this year was the second year in a row that they've gone to Olvera Street in Los Angeles. So really a culturally connected street and important in the history of Latinx communities in Los Angeles. So the students got to explore the street. They went to different community, local businesses, and got to ask about their experiences and really kind of be present in the culture there. And our students have loved that trip these last 2 years, the opportunity to connect in the community. Our women in science and engineering. So this year they went to the Los Angeles Science Center. So they had a chance to, do a number of different exhibits at the Science Center, engage with each other, engage with some speakers at the Science Center. One of the pictures I have next to it actually is a small alligator. So another event that happened for women in science and engineering was called Creature Cafe. So one of our faculty and residents who's very connected to the WISE community, she's a biology faculty member, brought animals from one of the labs on campus out to a residential community. So they got to see and interact up close with these laboratory animals, learn more about how they're used and what kinds of things they do with the animals. And it was also an opportunity to connect to potential, research opportunities on campus. So again, if you think about traveling and commuting and just coming from home to classes versus you walk downstairs and interact with faculty, you see these cool animals, learn about this great opportunity that you might have. So those are just a few of the examples I wanted to give us some of the activities or events our learning communities have done this past year. So we've got a little over 10 minutes left. So we're going to jump quickly into our application. I know we had a couple questions coming up about that. So you can apply now. Our application is live. It's on our website. If you go to our website, you can click in CSUSB.edu/housing, click on where it says Get Started. Spaces are filled on a first come, first served basis. We did have a $200 prepayment, but we have waived the $200 prepayment. So if that was a concern for you, if you've gone to the website and checked at any point in time, we're no longer requiring a prepayment. And specifically for new and transfer students, and this is very exciting for us, if you submit an application by 11:59 p.m. on Monday, June 1st, you'll receive a discount equivalent to 1 month of free rent. So depending upon the place that you would choose to live, that free month might look a little different as the rent rates are a little different. But that's pretty significant. You will not find any housing near campus giving that kind of a discount or opportunity. We believe that we really think housing should be accessible to all of our students, and so we're making some strong efforts to make housing accessible financially for folks. Though again, I would refer everyone to, again, make sure you've completed the FAFSA, make sure that you are aware of what your financially looks like, and start to have that conversation if housing is something you're really interested in. We can give some general information, about things to consider in terms of housing, but for cost. But really, it's going to come down to the conversation between the student and your family of what looks reasonable, what does your aid look like, and those are all individual decisions. But we're very excited. I think we can provide a pretty cool opportunity to receive a significant discount to the housing rate if you apply early. Wanted to briefly touch on campus dining. So like I shared earlier, residents who are in traditional style halls are required to have a meal plan, and the meal plan options, there'll be a variety of options for folks. And we have multiple dining options on campus. So we have the Coyote Commons where folks can, pay one price and go in and it's all you can eat. We have a number of eateries in the Union, the library, SBS, so Social Behavioral Sciences building, and we have multiple markets across campus. So we have some contact information for Coyote Dining there. Housing and dining are different programs, so we know that dining is important to students if they're living on campus. So we wanted to make sure we shared some information. And we are changing our campus food service provider to a new food service provider this next year. So we're very excited to see what kinds of new exciting things they're going to bring to our campus. Kind of this last page, and we'll start to hit some questions after this last page. I'm going to hand off to Kathy.
Okay. Our housing contact information, wanted to point out some things to you. You can always call our main line, which is there, the 909-374-155. Leave a voicemail if nobody picks up, and we will get back to you ASAP. Another and really a great way to get in touch with us is to email us at the housing email, because we are always checking that email throughout the day, and we really make a huge effort to get back to everybody within 24 hours. But I would say even right now, it's much less than that. So housing at CSUSBaadmissions.edu, and we will respond to you. Obviously, another great thing that has kind of been discussed is our website has a wealth of information on there, and it's up to date. We're always updating it. So that's www.csusb.edu/housing. And when you're on our website, we have a new feature that I really want to point out to everybody. Just in the last week and a half, we have a virtual office. So you are perusing our website and you have questions, you can get them answered right then and there. And this is during business hours. So we're talking Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And there's a gray bar on the homepage and it says virtual office. You would just click on that and you will enter into a waiting room. And our student assistants that are working this, you won't see them, but you will hear them. And they are there to help you. So if you have any questions that you are just burning and you just need to know while you're looking at the website, please take advantage of that feature. It's worked out great. We are getting more and more people on there. And it's just a great way to get your answers quickly. And if they don't know, they'll find out and get back to you. But so far, so good. So it's a great, great feature.
Great, thank you, Kathy. So I'm going to leave this slide up while we're answering some questions in case folks want to either copy things down or take a picture or something to that effect. We're going to jump back to some of our questions here. So the first question I have here, what do you do if there's a problem between roommates? I've had problems in the past and they were not solved for a while. So I think the first big thing is we try to help folks partner with people who are going to have some similar life habits. And right at the beginning of the year, we ask folks to do a roommate agreement. So really what that is talking through how do we want to share space with each other? What do we need from each other? what do we expect of, can I use your items? Can you use my items? Those kinds of things that we ask folks to do that in the beginning. And we have our RAs check in and ask how that's going, if people need any help within that process. And if something does come up, there's a few steps that really depends kind of the scale of what's happening. So the first thing is that we would really have the student leader probably talk through with someone, okay, what's the issue? Are you comfortable addressing them on your own? Do you want me to help address that with you? Because the goal is for folks to be able to gain the skills to address confrontation. That being said, we're supportive. So we have student leaders who are trained in conflict mediation. If something elevates that, really we need as a professional staff help, all of our villages have a full-time master's level professional working in the village that can step in and do some assistance as well if we need help in terms of mediation. But that being said, if there's ever something that comes up that's a significant safety risk or something to that effect, we will work with folks immediately to remove someone from a safety risk. And everyone on campus is, responsible for following the student code of conduct, the housing policies, and the repercussions for folks if behaviors are, illegal or inappropriate or violating those policies. So can we work on a one-on-one basis depending upon that specific scenario? But we do work with folks if there's issues with roommates. And there will be, right? Like anytime people are living together, there's going to be some kind of conflict. It's just, is it, something that we're able to overcome and manage, or is it something we can't? Are you running housing tours? We're currently not running housing tours live. We do have some virtual tours of spaces on the website. Again, right now, we're doing what's safe for our students, and what's safe for them is keeping outside folks out of their communities. So we're not actively doing tours. If at some point we're able to resume doing in-person live tours, we will certainly have that information on our website and allow folks to do that. Do we have to be in our room at a certain time? Nope. You're an adult, so you have the ability to come and go as you please. We do have expectations around things like quiet hours for folks to be respectful within the community and other policies, but that does not include needing to be in your room at a certain time. No one's going to do a bed check to make sure that you're there. This is again, that independence piece, right? It's your chance to learn a little bit about creating your own timeline and your own schedule. How late can we cancel housing if I change my mind into summer about living on campus? You can cancel pretty late. We have all the details on our cancellation policy specifically on our website, so I'd encourage you just to kind of read all the details on there. But we have folks who cancel up to kind of right before they move in. In the past, we've asked folks to cancel and make sure that they cancel 30 days out. But, we're navigating things with the pandemic, so we're working with people. Let's see here, 30 minutes. At what point do we receive information on our roommates, suite mates? So typically we let people know in the summer who their roommates or suite mates are going to be, or allow them to have that information, depending upon how we're placing folks. We may not have everyone placed at one time, so we try to make sure we have a bulk of people placed and into spaces or have selected spaces before we share out all that information. If we live on campus, can a friend, a non-CSUSB student, visit our dorm on the weekend, not to spend the night, but just to visit? Folks can do either one, so you're welcome to have visitors. We do have some policies around overnight guests that really are meant, to be respectful of roommate situations. We ask folks that you can have someone for, up to 3 nights, come stay in your space if your roommate has approved for that person to come and stay there. The goal is not to have someone staying and essentially living there. We don't allow that. That's against our policies, but you certainly can have friends or family, come to visit you. Anybody else want to say anything about visiting on campus or having friends come over and visit, whether either Shannon or Ariana?
Yeah, I do know that before we used to at the front desk have a paper that residents would fill out with the guest information, but now with all of this wonderful technology that we have, there is a link, a Google link, I believe, on our housing website that you can fill out just as a way to protect your guest in case anything were to happen. Let's say we have a fire alarm, like the fire alarm goes off in the building and we're trying to account for everyone within the building. We would also account for your guest as well. That's just a safety precaution. And again, just like Holly said, as a way to be respectful to your roommates as well as the people that live in the building around you, in the rooms around you. So yeah, I've had no problems with having guests over myself. I have I have guests over pretty frequently within the like time frame that we're allowed with the 3 consecutive days. And even if they don't spend the night, I do have friends come and go occasionally, so I have no problems with that. So if you're worried about something like that, you want to still have your friends come over, that whether they attend CSUSB or not, you should be good to go.
Great, thank you. So let's see here, a couple more questions. And I'll just share with y'all, if we're not able to respond to your question the next couple minutes, we are going to get a list of these questions so that we can kind of email respond to all of you. So just know that we'll be helping respond to questions even after this webinar is over. Let's see, the next question. Are we allowed to put a security camera outside our door and inside our room? So we would say this, you're not really allowed to put security cameras out anywhere. It's considered other people's living space as well, and so it's important that other folks are able to be respected within their homes. But if you have specific concerns related to why you might want to do that, we're happy to talk about that and kind of talk through what options might be or what those what that interest is related to for you. How would we join Latinx residential scholars? Could we join more than one living learning community? So based on just the structure of living learning communities, people can only be in one at a time. Certainly if you stay on campus more than 1 year, you could potentially change into a different learning community that we have available for upper division students as well. And really, when you fill out your housing application, there's a space where you get to kind of select if you'd like to participate in a living learning community. We have some information on them there. We also have some more details on the website, but you could just go in and click that you're interested. I will say that there are limited spaces for those communities. So if you're interested, I really encourage you to get in there and fill out that application soon. Partially to make sure you get the discount of the up to 1 month, the 1 month free of housing. But knowing that Latinx is really popular and that fills up. But it's simple, integrated into your housing application. If you did decide to change a living learning community at some point, we have had folks who make that decision when they're torn between a couple. You certainly can contact us after you complete an application, and we can work on the back end if there's availability to make an adjustment. So next question around payment, is payment required all at once for rent, or is there a monthly payment option? So there is a payment plan through Student Financial Services. We don't have our own independent payment plan. You'd need to sign up for a payment plan for the campus with Student Financial Services. They've got more details on what their plan looks like on the website. And someone else asked about kind of aid and the timeline of that getting paid in terms of if you receive aid in August, is that problematic? We work with financial aid and Student Financial Services in terms of when the charges come out, because most folks utilize aid in some capacity to pay for their housing. So aid is distributed out to folks in a timeline that's coordinated with our billing. So if you're getting aid, don't worry about the timeline of when you get it. We work with folks around their aid, receiving their aid. Let's see here.
I also just wanted to touch on really fast, Holly, if that's okay.
Sure.
I know that there are some questions about, like, do you have to pay all of the housing up front? And I just want to say that those payments are usually due within the beginning of, in the past, it's been in the beginning of each quarter, but moving into semesters, the payments will be due before the start of the semester. And if you go onto the housing website, you will see the breakdown of the prices, and you'll see the overall academic year price. But that's not necessarily the price that you'll be paying all at once, because again, there are 2 semesters. So if you take that big number and you split it in half, that's essentially what you would be paying for each semester in the beginning. And there's also the breakdown of it on the website as well. When you do go on the website, and you will see the prices. And also, if you're going to apply within our new deadline to get the month of free rent, we do show you the difference between if you apply before the deadline or after the deadline, just so that you can get an idea of how much you'll be saving if you do apply before our deadline for our month of free rent.
Great. So I have one question we're going to end on, because I have 4 or 5 people who have asked this question. And I know we've got a number of other questions that flooded in. Again, if we did not answer your question in here, we're going to get back to folks via email to answer questions. And some of them is information that's also on our website as well. But a number of folks asked what they should bring with them. Quickly, Ariana, and I'm going to have Ariana start with what are some things you'd encourage other students to maybe bring when they're coming to campus for the first time?
So just know, I think something that's really important to know is that everything that you bring in, you'll also have to bring out, you know, like once the school year is over. And so it's really, I know for me, when I first moved in, I kind of what we were talking about earlier is I wanted to bring everything for some reason. And then at the end of the year, I was stuck with like multiple boxes and like having to utilize everyone in my family's car to bring stuff home. So I would try to avoid bringing so much, but honestly, bring whatever you feel like is going to make your space, you know, individual to you. I know that there are some limits of items that you cannot have in your dorm, such as candles, stuff like that. But, you know, if you're the type of person you like to have a candle in your room, I use the little like wall plugins and they work just fine, and we're allowed to have those. But if you're interested in learning about things that you cannot bring on campus, I know that that is on our website as well. Kind of a list of, you know, do not bring a toaster oven or do not bring a candle, like I said. But other than that, I would say bring whatever you feel like is going to make you most comfortable, because again, this is your space. And, you know, people do better when they're in a space that they're comfortable in. And so for me, I love decorating my dorm, you know, with little lights, or, you know, I put like a little tapestry on my wall, that type of thing. So I would say whatever you feel. Again, the beds are furnished. Well, you do have a bed. You also have a desk and a dresser. So I would say, you know, of course, maybe like a comforter or something to put on the bed, a pillow, that type of stuff. And also kitchen supplies too. Whether you're in an apartment or you're in a community kitchen, you should probably bring your own cooking supplies if you do want to, if you're interested in cooking. But other than that, everything's kind of given, which is the really great part about living on campus, because I hear that a lot of other universities, you know, they make you bring other kind of things. And, you know, with us at Cal State, it's all kind of here for you. So even if you brought nothing, essentially, I feel like you would still be able to live pretty comfortably.
I'd say there's some basic things like, you know, think about things you need or use on a day-to-day basis. Clothing is important to bring. You know, bedding is important. What are those hygiene things that you might need to, you know, to go take a shower? If you're living in a space that has community restrooms, I highly encourage you to have shower shoes. So I think, you know, think about what are those things you use on a day-to-day basis that would be, you know, problematic for you to not have. And then think about what are maybe the things that you have around you that you don't really need or don't really use, and consider maybe leaving those things at home. We do, like Ariana said, we have our resident handbook online that is available for anyone to see. It's currently under our current residents tab on our website, but it's completely open for anyone to see. And we do have a list of prohibited items. But really, those things are based off of safety for the community and others. That's why we have a list of things that are not allowed. But again, think about those things that you need on a day-to-day to function, and those are great things for you to bring. So we're going to wrap up now. We're definitely a few minutes over. Thanks for all the folks who stuck around. Again, we'll respond to more questions you know, electronically. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you also to all our co-presenters for sharing your perspective and experiences. And, you know, welcome to CSUSB.
Bye.
Bye.